any of you remember Mineplex? Yeah, this server was massive back in the day. But do you know how it is now? Broken! As I fall through the world on multiple occasions, plummeting to my ever-emerging doom. But once I had stopped plunging to my death, I arrived at the Mineplex main hub. So then, quite a few of the games that I could pick from were inactive. In fact, all of them but that Speed Builders game, which I couldn't play because I've already made a video on that. So I joined what Mineplex called Nano Games, as unfortunately, it was the only server with more than like 2-3 people playing it. For anyone with more than a handful of brain cells to figure out that Nano Games was simply just Hypixel's party games but reskinned. But I didn't want to go into the game expecting it to be atrocious. And as such, I entered the first round, which was called Copycat. What do I copy? Well, it took me a second to figure that one out. But after a little while, I did indeed figure it out. Though the blocks being on a grid did throw off my depth perception just a tad. And even with my initial fumble with these blocks, I did somehow end up in second place, which was reasonably impressive as I literally had no clue where else to go when the game first started. The next game was simply the Fall Guys jumping rope game, where you had to avoid this quite frankly mildly dodgy beam and not get whacked off the map, which was nice and easy at first, as this blue one was staying nice and still. But when it started moving was when things went downhill, and considering this was all made using Minecraft command blocks, the hitboxes were bonkers! You can clearly see how I made that jump, right? Because I did, and I know for a fact that I should have made that jump! Well, have no fear, as next up on Mineplex's roster was Block Party, where all the blocks were pretty close to each other, as there was no fancy patterns or maps, only amalgamations of 3x3 squares. And as such, it made it quite easy to locate the platform to stand on top of. Far easier than Block Party, sorry, Pixel Party now, ever was. Or at least, that was until it started speeding up. We were now down to 1 second, and the light blue colour ended up ending my Mineplex victory. Next up was Hole in the Wall, but fast. Right, notice how the only active Mineplex game is an amalgamation of tiny casual games? There is no point system. By the way, you win each game individually. And notice how all the people finishing is their first time playing? Yeah, I reckon they're most likely on the server for exactly the same reason I am. Experimentation and nostalgia. Next up was football, or soccer as incorrect people like to call it. Now, I'm not a sporty chap, but we weren't using our hands or using balls to play this game. But I mean, hey, it's got a goal, that's good enough, right? However, because red team scored a goal early on in the game, while the rest of us were still figuring out what on earth to do, my own blue team struggled to score a singular goal, and our losses only made it more embarrassing, as not only did I fail to score an own goal just to score something, but red ended up snagging another goal from us right at the end. After this was Mario Kart, but with cheat, and then there was this whole drifting mechanic that I didn't entirely understand, so I just focused on like not using it, and instead focused my attention on not crashing into things. As if I was going to make it to first place, I had a bit of work to do, but by taking the inside lane and not crashing, I was able to build up enough speed to slide into first place. Now all that I had to do was keep it. That guy gave me a bit of a scare, and I nearly crashed into that rock, which would have entirely screwed me over. But I didn't! I not only ended up lapping some people, but also ended up winning in first place. However, this video wasn't to win, but rather to see what Mineplex has left to offer. Recognize this dropping game from Hypixel? Yeah, well, the only difference here is that you can't choose when you fall, which I guess really screwed up the performance that I knew I could give, as proven by my performance on Hypixel in exactly the same minigame. That orange guy made a pee-pee. What a cultured man. Safe to say, I was pretty much in dead last for that one. And in fact, the next one, which was the Avalanche minigame from Hypixel as well. However, unlike the Hypixel minigame, the platform you're supposed to stand under, well, blocks you off if you don't make it. Do any of you remember Squid Game? Well, Mineplex clearly does, as the next game on their roster was Red Light, Green Light. And speaking of green lights, I give you the green light to subscribe right now! Have I mentioned that I have a broken mouse? Right, well, it is, which is perfectly demonstrated by this bow and arrow minigame, though after its initial fumble, my mouse somehow had been able to sort itself out to the extent where I could actually aim and hit something. That was nowhere near enough to win a game on Mineplex. The next game up was this wizard one, where you just spam literally everything you are given and just pray you'll kill something eventually. But I realized if I just killed myself, it'd count as a kill! Well, ignore the fact that it doesn't add to my total score, because yes, I earn a point for killing a player, but I also lose a point for dying. And finally, to end it all off, right where we started, good old Fall Guys minigame had come back, where the beams scuffed hitboxes took me out again! What other games are available to play? Haha, funny joke. None of them? I popped my head into Death Run to see these two players having a one-on-one round within the game, and then peered into a Bed Wars game, though here it's called Cake Wars. and like Doctor Strange popping through the multiverses, I had stumbled upon freedom? An escape from the main world of Mineplex is what this land promised me. A land with players? No, Mineplex in 2022 is dead, and nothing proves this more than the remnants of a once active server being left out in the open by players who never logged on again. Players who also trap you in their dead abandoned bases! Ah, who is Dominic? Like and subscribe, chaps, or else you'll face the ghost of Dominic! Ah!